Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Chilluminati podcast, episode 359, I believe. As always, I'm one of your hosts, Mike Martin, joined by my two wonderful co-hosts, Jesse and Alex, on a hot day for fucking all of us across the country, dude. True. It is sweltering hot everywhere where we all live.
Did you say you believe you're Mike? Did you say you believe you're Mike Martin?
Believe episode 359.
Oh,
I believe I'm Mike Martin.
I thought you were having like a small identity crisis. I was
man,
whoa.
Who am I at any given day? What mask do I wear? You know?
Oh my God.
Who am I?
Whoa.
I am who I am. Who am I?
Dude, is this a riddle?
Answer it, and I've got one legal nug for you.
Yeah. Oh my God, the Bean Boy.
And it's the
Bean Boy Shrine.
Jesse and Alex. One always tells the truth and one always lies.
If you find the Bean Boy Shrine and no one's home and you beat him to his bed, he'll grant you one wish if you can answer his riddle.
Mm-hmm.
If we got any practitioners of magic out there, I would ask of you to create a small Bean Boy Shrine. I would love that. If you could put that energy out there into the magical world, charge it, sigilize it. You know, a can of baked beans can represent him rather well.
Let's just get everybody legally purchasing some weed and smoking it.
And that's all you need to do.
If they'd like to.
Exactly. Anytime you smoke weed, and make sure you think of Bean Boy, and the Bean Boy will bring pleasant highs and enjoyable high times.
Smoke weed by choice, only legal nugs. That's the Boston Bean Boy way.
Get some magical practices out there. No, Jesse, you don't want any of that?
It's just I don't know that I want to be involved with any Bean Boy shrine should you get arrested by the police and they see a shrine of Bean Boy and they're like, A to B to C back to us.
It's part of the design. It's legal. By definition, we're not going to get in trouble because that's why the Bean Boy looks out for us. That's part of his grace.
If you live in a state where weed isn't legal, it's okay. Just a can of baked beans works.
I don't know that I want you to have a can of baked beans just sitting out.
I've had a lot of baked beans this summer, and
I love baked beans. So
they'll do you wrong if you leave them out. Listen, guys, if you don't want to hear anything about any of that, head over to patreon.com/ChilluminatiPod, where we do all kinds of stuff of value and with actual entertainment value to it, unlike the last 3 minutes of this show. You can go over there, listen to a mini-sode, and it's going to be another little bonus moment from today, like right after we finish recording this, of us going through sort of current events. Usually I do something these days like read a listener story or something like that, which you can leave on our subreddit.
Fourth tranche of UFO files last week.
Yep. We had some really crazy stuff. Like we discovered that the quality of the images, if you download them, is like suspiciously better than they are on the website, where they seem to be stylized to be lower quality.
Yeah, it's in color removed.
Yeah, really strange. But if you want the minisodes, go on over to our Patreon, and there's one every time we upload a normal episode, and it helps us keep the show going, and it's our primary way of making money. So please, give me my dinner.
Please.
Thank you, guys.
Please.
Patreon.com/ChilluminatiPod. Please, sir, I want some more dinner. What else? How many tickets left to the show?
Last I checked, we had 4 tickets left. I'm literally checking. We're out. We're sold out.
We're sold out. Okay, well,
sold out tickets for the live show. Sorry, y'all.
This is an announcement that we're going to have a really good time in Chicago, and thank you for watching.
I can't wait to see everyone.
Thank you for your purchase. Thank you for your purchase, gang.
Last time in Chicago was my first time. I fell in love with that city. It's beautiful,
wonderful city. It's
what's
my favorite cities?
What's the moment? What did you fall in love with, Mathas?
I don't know. Me and my brother and sister just walking the streets together was just nice. It was just a nice. I think it was like a city that's not as priced like a city.
I mean, try and live there though. It's still a city. But with that said, it is it's a big city, but Midwest, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Like it is a big city, but the vibe is like come on, y'all, let's go get some breakfast.
We need to we need to get an architecture boat tour on the schedule next time. That'd be great. Anyway, go there if you already bought a ticket. If not, I mean, unless you're an eccentric millionaire, do not fly to Chicago because there's a very small chance that you'll meet us if you don't go into the show. But there you go.
In a massive city of millions of people, there is a small chance. Yes.
Yes. Also, if you like merch from this darn show and you like to support us and you don't want to support us on Patreon or something like that, you'd rather get cold, hard goods, dry goods in your hands rather than some weird
get Chilluminati
subscription
brand cow feed.
Yeah. Get some cast iron fork and knives for outdoors. No, head on over there to theyeti.com/Chilluminati.
Time out. Shit. Why are we not doing this? We need to sell a Chilluminati outdoors camping baked bean cooking set. How are we not doing this?
I feel like the first piece of Bean Boy merch. How? I mean, there's a lot of steps probably that we're. There's a lot of times
we can pitch it as you're watching the stars. You're looking for, or maybe you're looking for Bigfoot and a little camping set. And in that is one of those little tin things where you bake baked beans. Come on! Why are we not doing this?
I see it.
I see the dream.
I see the dream. There's a lot of points where you can jump off, where you have a chance to think twice, and I think that's probably why we haven't. Done it.
I'm not thinking twice.
But you know what? I'll tell you what. If there's an overwhelming, like swell of demand on the subreddit, I will change our plans. If hundreds of people come out of the woodwork saying this bean set is what we need, I will add it to our merchandise schedule.
With the Chilluminati
sold out of our, listen, we haven't even sold out of our posters yet. So
yes. Dude, we're close though.
And one is camping gear with the Chilluminati logo on it, and then a Boston baked bean boy can where you bake your beans.
Listen,
people would use that just to use it.
If you want to buy some real merch that actually exists, you can go over there and buy some top secret stickers from Mudsley. They are fucking amazing. Mel also turned her giant, awesome pink and green mantis on the rocket ship with multiple arms with a ray gun, like kind of like trashy, sexy mantis on a rocket ship shirt.
It's sick.
It's pretty sick. I wear it all the time. Going over there to patreon.com. theyeti.com/Chilluminati. Links in the description. It's quite confusing because it's the only one that is spelled completely differently than all the other ones. But go check it out. Go buy some stuff there. Keep us going. And so we can do the show just like this one. Guys, this is John McAfee, father of many, loved by few, which is actually a quote from his obituary. The difficulty with John McAfee is that he's like an unreliable narrator in his own story, right? Like he has a past. He has a past where he's heavily done drugs.
McAfee, that the documentary exists?
Yes, this is John McAfee as in McAfee VirusScan. Yeah. He's heavily done drugs, though he claims to have been sober since the 80s. But that's enough time to have your brain addled by them hard drugs. And he's definitely what on some people, on some level, some people would call crazy. He's paranoid as fuck, right? He gets all these crazy schemes in his head. He has all these like persecution complexes where he thinks people are after him all the time. But then on the other hand, it's confusing because it seems like he actually is some kind of genius, right? Like he has actually done all these like crazy computer things that he's done. He's the McAfee from McAfee VirusScan, by the way. We'll talk about that more in a second, but here's that.
What's that quote? There's a fine line between genius and insanity.
Yes. He is like the guy who did all the like world-changing development stuff he did, and he still kind of seems like he was at least plugged into that world even near the end of his life, if not like still like a legit master of the form still. He was at least like a legend, though for all I know, he may well have been a master. I have no idea. He really is quite a mystery. But for all intents and purposes, pretty much the only stuff we can even come close to trusting is the things he did while other people were watching him. Like everything that we have is like an interview with him that's in a crazy circumstance or something that he just said in an interview, rather than anything that we can know for sure is true because it's also mysterious. And he just leaves this impression behind that sort of like awes people, even though they hate him kind of. For that reason, while these are definitely not time slices, I'm going to just take you through the events of John McAfee's life as factually as possible in just normal chronological order and fill out some of the questions you might have about how or why with like some primary sources or some small quotes or whatever, or some cursory knowledge that I picked up from watching a million documentaries and reading a bunch of articles about this guy, which in the case of John McAfee himself, I think it's safe to take with at least 1 grain of some seriously high quality salt. But anyway, yeah, this is the life of John McAfee. Salt? Yeah, like a nice pink salt, like a rock salt. Mm-hmm. Do you ever do that? You ever cook shrimp on a rock salt block? You ever just get it so high, holds heat so well? You can just heat the salt block up and just put the shrimp on there.
It sounds delicious.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's become like extra salty shrimp. I don't know that.
Yeah, you don't have to season it. Yeah, it seasons itself while you cook it. and it gets like a crust on it. Anyway, this is the life of John McAfee. He definitely had a fucked up life of his own that he didn't create for himself or cause. But after reading quite a few articles about the man, I must say, it doesn't really seem like he ever moved past all that or really ever turned any of it into like a true positive force in the world. He just kind of fell victim to his own sort of worst impulses. The man's story is strange. It's sad. But the reason I'm telling it on this show is because along with it come like two sort of mysteries within it. Like that's why it's on Chilluminati, the show, which in the Summer of Secrets, which it is right now. And this, like I said, this is all about paranoia, secrets, mysteries, unsolved things that nag at you, people that maybe will be chasing you, maybe not, secret codes. Pepe Sylvia. Who is Pepe Sylvia? That is the theme of this summer. So in this story, there are two kind of weird mysteries, and even more than that, even more than two, but two real big ones that people ask about John McAfee, which various people think about various things about. So consider this larger story context and background for eventually deciding at the end what John McAfee did, what happened to him. And there'll be a few more little strangenesses along the way that let not just you, the audience, but me, the researcher, know that not everything with the guy was quite how it seemed. Probably. These are absolutely not time slices, so I won't mention those anymore. But we're starting at the beginning. Also, heads up, please. This one has violence in it. Both sexual violence, non-consensual kind, and non-sexual violence. And it's against both humans and animals, I think. So prepare yourself. If that's not your scene, maybe skip this episode, though. If you follow my meaning, it's more in this one like there's a few bad moments, then that's the entire flavor of the entire bit of what we're talking about today. So if you feel like maybe you can deal with it for a second, you can give it a shot. Proceed with caution. Get ready to drown me out with some Astrid Gilberto or something nice like that. If you need it, just turn it on the AirPods, get it queued up if you need it.
Thank you so much to Bioptimizers for sponsoring today's episode. Look, I live on the Gulf Coast, so it's genuinely melting outside right now. The heat has been insane, and the nights are just not that much better. I climb into bed, the room is still warm, my body just won't switch off, and I'm just lying there wired when all I want to do is drift off. So what most people miss, summer quietly drains magnesium. Every time you sweat, a hot afternoon, workout, travel day, you lose some, and magnesium is one of the things your body leans on to relax, recover, and actually sleep. That's why I keep the Magnesium Breakthrough Bioptimizers on my nightstand all summer long. Magnesium is one of the key nutrients your body relies on for relaxation, recovery, and healthy sleep, and most people simply aren't getting enough. What makes Magnesium Breakthrough different is that it packs multiple bioavailable forms of magnesium into one capsule instead of just the one or two you'll find in most supplements. So whether you're coming off a long travel day, bouncing back from a hot active afternoon, this is the simplest habit to come back to. Here's what you get when you go to bioptimizers.com/chill and use code CHILL. 15% off your entire order, plus a free travel-sized bottle of Massims, Bioptimizer's best-selling digestive enzyme, added to your order automatically when you use our exclusive code. That's a $20 product for free. You heard me right, on top of your discount. This is a limited time offer and while supplies last. You cannot get this on Amazon right now. You can't even get them in stores. This offer exists in one place with my link, my code. That's it. Thank you again to Bioptimizers for sponsoring today's episode.
John McAfee was born September 18th, 1945 in Cinderford in the Forest of Dean in Gloucestershire, England. I'm hoping I pronounced that properly. He was on a military base there, which, according to Wikipedia, was the 596th Ordnance Ammunition Company. And I love this. This is one of my favorite things that happens in the past. His dad's name his dad is American. His name was Don McAfee. So John McAfee's dad is Don McAfee. And then his mother was British, and she was Joan Williams. So Joan McAfee, Don McAfee, John McAfee. Is that something?
John Joan.
Did I just create the first hack?
I think you basically made them into Pokemon. That those generators where they combine two Pokemon into something?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's Don
and Joan made John.
It looks mysteriously like John McAfee, who basically looks like if Guy Fieri was Iggy Pop. Does that help?
That's pretty close. Yes.
Like,
yes.
Look at a picture of him after I say that, and that's pretty close. Anyway, his dad is from Roanoke, Virginia, which is mysterious in its own way. But he was raised in Salem, Virginia, and he felt his British identity as much as his American identity, according to him. And sort of the key moment of his younger life is that when he was 15 years old, his like father Don, who was like abusive father, scary guy, took out his anger on his family, alcoholic, drank his ass to death almost. Apparently, his dad shot himself when he was 15, and so this was like a big kind of scar in his brain and something that he returned to at surprisingly odd times, as we'll see. But he has spent his childhood kind of like just afraid. And so that's like where his like sort of habits maybe come from. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, like maybe like just the idea of growing up with like somebody maybe about to beat the shit of you at any moment is bad. But yeah, it was 1960 when he was 15 and his dad took his life. So we're just still in the very early part of the mid-century, which is kind of interesting. John gets his bachelor's in mathematics from Roanoke College in Virginia in 1967, just a couple of years later. And he started a doctorate in mathematics at Northeast Louisiana State, but he was expelled from Northeast Louisiana State pretty quickly. And it's kind of for an interesting reason, because it sounds kind of gross. And actually, like, I don't get too far into it because I keep feeling like I do these stories about these like lecherous dudes, and then that's what my episodes are about all the time.
That's just the Alex brand.
I think that's just dudes, actually dudes with power. But like in this case, it was actually more different. Like, he got expelled for dating an undergrad, and this woman's called Fran, and this was in 1968. But then they got married. So I don't know what was really going on there. Like maybe something like truly romantic was occurring, or not. I don't know. But while he was working on his
romantic, just like
I don't know.
I had a high school English teacher ended up marrying one of his students after they graduated.
We all have a story like this. I know it. I know Jesse has one.
I have two.
I think I've heard. Yeah.
Two. Oh my God.
I have a couple. Yeah. I don't know. It's weird. It's a weird thing. But apparently that's part of
place for predators to be.
The national tapestry, weirdly. I guess. Yeah. But he did marry her. So maybe there was something. That's all I'm saying. It was just interesting because he married her immediately. And so maybe he did it out of love. But probably not. He worked as a programmer at NASA from 1968 to 1970. Then he moved over to UNIVAC. Then he moved over to Xerox, which is where he actually like participated in writing the actual like operating system of Xerox, like of the machines. Pretty crazy. And then he joined Computer Sciences Corporation as a software consultant in 1978 for a while because he was very sort of like excellent in his field. And then he moved to this consulting firm to do some consulting at Booz Allen Hamilton, which is a hilarious name for a consulting firm, that the first name is Booz. And now we're in 1980. And he stayed there for about 2 years, just doing some consulting until finally he ended up in Sunnyvale, California, working at Lockheed. And
getting all those secrets.
Yeah. And there's a quote here for him 1 year later in 1983 for what it was like at that time for him in 1983. Which one of you guys wants to read that?
I can do it. No, I got it. No problem.
I got it. 1983 was a pivotal year for McAfee. He was 38 and director of engineering at Omex, a company that built information storage systems in Santa Clara, California. He was also selling cocaine to his subordinates and snorting massive amounts himself. When he got too high to focus, he'd take a Quaalude. Right, of course, as one does. If he started to fall asleep at his desk, he'd snort some more coke to wake up. McAfee had trouble making it through the day and spent his afternoons drinking scotch to even out the tumult in his head.
I feel sick just thinking about like living through that up and down drug-induced. Holy Jesus Christ.
He'd been a mess for a long time. He grew up in Roanoke, Virginia, where his father was a roads surveyor and his mother a bank teller. His father, McAfee recalls, was a heavy drinker and a very unhappy man, who McAfee says beat him and his mother severely. When McAfee was 15, his father shot himself. Every day I wake up with him, McAfee says. Every relationship I have, he's by my side. Every mistrust, he is the negotiator of that mistrust. So my life is fucked. McAfee started drinking heavily his first year at Roanoke College and supported himself by selling magazine subscriptions door to door. When he says supported himself, do you think they just mean his drug habit? Is that what they're?
He made so much fucking money, though. Like, it was more than enough. Let's put it that way.
He would knock and announce that the lucky resident had won an absolutely free subscription. All they had to do was pay a small shipping and handling fee. So, in fact, I'm explaining to them why it's not free and why they are going to pay for it. But the ruse worked.
Yeah, big time. But then something completely unpredictable happened in 1986 when the first ever computer virus as we know it, which was called Brain, was released by two brothers in a computer shop in Pakistan who just wanted to see how far around the world it would go. And here's a quote about it from his obituary in the Times for Mathas to read.
McAfee was a computer programmer at Lockheed in Sunnyvale, California, with a troubled background, though he had been sober for 4 years. He read about Brain in the Mercury News and found it terrifying because it reminded him of his childhood when his alcoholic father would beat him and his mother for no reason. I didn't know why he did it, he told Wired magazine. I just knew a beating could happen at any time. Man, what an unfortunate thing to read about this computer virus, and it's immediately you're so traumatized that it just reminds you of your childhood.
That is
yeah, exactly.
The A to B to C there is wild because the trauma must.
That's what I'm saying.
So
it pops up all the time. Yeah,
that
so deep.
Something like a virus reminds you of your dad. That's.
It makes me feel like he just didn't know how to take care of himself, that he didn't know that he shouldn't be selling cocaine like magazine subscriptions, he shouldn't be just taking every chemical possible to augment his day. He just kind of was doing it out of kind of crazy survival instinct and paranoia.
Talk to him. Could have mitigated some of this.
I just think one more Quaalude could have helped.
Oh, all right. You know what?
That would have evened him out for sure. He would have calmed down.
Never tried ecstasy in this process, so
It's true. LSD? Maybe that would have helped.
Maybe that would have helped. Yeah.
LSD?
Oh, or if he mixed
you think
acid
he would have made
with, something else, a little kicker. You know what I mean? That could have helped him.
Yeah, just start. Oh, I can't know. The poor. All right, yeah.
Someone out there is going to be like, "Did you hear what these guys said?"
Do you think he would have made a peace computer if he did LSD instead?
Maybe. That's how that works.
You think he would have solved it?
A world peace computer, one with nature computer.
He would have made the Kojima server, the Kojima master brain.
It's possible.
Yeah.
I bet you he did do LSD and it just didn't do anything to him. His brain was already too fried.
Right.
In 1987, while still at Lockheed, he started McAfee Associates from his home in Santa Clara, creating antivirus software that could detect malicious software and remove it automatically. He was not expecting users to pay for the basic model. He simply wanted to impress on them the need to be protected from computer viruses. Within 5 years, half of America's Fortune 100 companies had installed McAfee software and were paying a licensing fee for the full protection it purported to offer. By 1990, he was making $5 million a year.
Jeez.
As a sideline, he ran the American Institute for Safe Sex Practices. Any member who paid him a fee and tested HIV negative could have sex with other members for 6 months free from the risk of AIDS. Man,
what do you mean?
He's hustling, dude.
He ran a sex club?
He's moving.
He ran a sex club.
registry, a sex guilt-free sex registry.
Grabbed onto the balls of capitalism.
Wait, I don't understand. Hold on. Repeat.
It's during the AIDS crisis,
what
right?
What did he do?
He created a safe sex club?
No. But I mean, you said as long as they tested HIV negative
and paid him, he would approve them.
What would happen?
He could have sex.
It was like
members.
It was like a registry. Yeah, it was like a registry of members.
But I guess I'm curious. When it says you can have sex with other members, is it yeah, man, just pick someone and you can, or is it the potential opportunity is there, but it doesn't guarantee you will have sex with them?
I think it's I hope
the way you read it made it seem
like
I want to be with member C.
It definitely sounds sus. It says
also who's to stop a member from sleeping with somebody else while they're in them. The flaw in this is kind of obvious.
It says it was short-lived. It was run by John McAfee, and that according to the Washington Post article, they had a card that you could get, and then you could that was your ID card, so that if you want to have sex with somebody, you could be are you insured by survival, and pull out your card.
What?
But then people didn't really believe the card because you could just pull the card out and be like, I'm clean, baby. And then they're like,
that's so, you can get the card and then also just go sleep with people who don't have the card and there's no way to check.
Yeah. And so it's just, it doesn't really make sense, but I thought it was funny to include because
no morals, you can just make money off of anybody. For anything.
Guess, dude.
I think that's kind of how he kind of approached the whole situation, to be honest. But anyway, I don't know at what point he divorced Fran or even what Fran's last name is, possibly by Fran's own choice. I don't know. But that same year that he invented the VirusScan, he met and married his second wife. Though no one's really sure what happened to his first wife, like I said. But she was the new one is a former American Airlines flight attendant. I think this was in 1990. And her name was Judy Chambliss. And he married her when he was like a millionaire. McAfee incorporated in 1992 in Delaware and went public like all big companies do. And McAfee himself was constantly on TV warning people of all the different various viruses with scary names out there that were going to come get you and destroy you, like Michelangelo and Vienna and Stoned, the Stoned virus.
My dad used to come home and beat the fuck out of me.
Seriously, ping pong, that's another one, scary virus.
That's the noise my dad's hand made when he slapped me in the ass.
That's like where his vibe was at.
I know. It's like, imagine him on TV just warning people and then just constantly referring to the fact that his dad beat him.
Yes. And he was saying like, oh, like any business, it's essential that you have my software if you're a smart business owner, because these guys are out there. And he was like infecting these people with this sort of paranoid way of thinking, which feels very American to me now. But eventually he sort of ran out of steam on it, got tired of the hustle, stepped down as the CEO of the company in 1993, became the CTO for a while until he eventually resigned fully in 1994, and he sold his stake in the company when it was like valued extremely highly, and he got like rich as fuck. And then he sort of pieced out, and he sort of took on this air of like being anti the company that had his name and calling it bloatware, because as the reason he kind of left was he was kind of feeling that public pressure, like now that the company's public, to sort of like do those sorts of things with the software, and everybody was kind of pushing him to do that, and he just didn't agree with it, according to him, which will make sense later when you find out how libertarian this dude is. But he like went and he like he called it bloatware, and he kind of left. And it seems very altruistic to me right now at this point. You know what I mean? Other than that, he's like a weird like drug man who's like now clean, but he's like a weird hustler. I don't know. He's a weird guy. He weirds me out. Founded Tribal Voice in 1994.
Wasn't a good dude.
No, not really. No.
I cannot stress this. Take the time to go watch that documentary about him.
So Listener, good. It's so good.
It's one of the craziest things I've ever watched.
It's like
him
not even
in real time.
Like that's like just a small portion of this story that's featured in that documentary too, which is interesting. In 1994, he founded a company called Tribal Voice, which made Powwow. I don't know if you remember Powwow. That's like one of the earliest IM clients that there was out there. Mm-hmm. He joined the board of directors for a firewall company called Zone Labs in 2000, which is the most 2000 like bubble pop company name I've ever heard of. Zone Labs. Which was acquired by Checkpoint Software in 2003. He also bought and opened a property in Colorado in 2000 because now he was like rich and delusional, which he operated as a meditation retreat and as like a yoga place. And in 2001, he wrote and released 4 books on meditation and yoga. And then in 2002, he divorced Judy Chambliss, his flight attendant wife. He divorced her. And just went and became like a yoga master. Misspoke there. Yoda master.
Thank you so much to Hero Forge for sponsoring today's episode. You've already heard me talk about Hero Forge for over a year now. Listen, if you're a nerd like I am, play tabletop RPGs, just like to collect minis, then you probably have heard of Hero Forge, if I'm honest. And if you have heard of them, then you know how powerful their minis creation tool is. If you want to like create your own character for whatever RPG you're playing or whatever minis game you're playing, you can head over to heroforge.com right now and literally just go use their tool for free, because you can. You can just go see how powerful it is and how many hundreds of options you have to create your own characters. I've said it a million times before, but I run D&D games here at my house and I have a 3D printer at home, so I'm constantly designing minis, buying the STL file and printing my minis at home. It's one of the best ways for me to do it. I have so many freaking minis thanks to Hero Forge, and even before we were working with them, I was using them. If you want plastic, colored plastic, bronze, and all kinds of other options from fantasy and all just a bunch of stuff. Just go over to Hero Forge and use code CHILLPOD on checkout to save yourself a little something in supporting our show. It goes a long way. Again, thank you to Hero Forge for sponsoring this episode and working with us for so long. We love you guys. Go check them out.
In the mid 2000s, he started this sort of like light sport airplane firm that does like aero trekking, which is like those little, I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. Do you know what I mean? They're like kind of like a hang glider, but they're like a full vehicle that you can sit inside. And it's crazy. In that business venture, his nephew, who was like 21 years old or something, was an aero trekking instructor. His name was Joel Gordon Bidow. And his student and his nephew died in a crash, in an aero trekking crash in 2006. And it was really weird. And like the way it was all handled was kind of strange. And the family of the student named him as a defendant in a civil court case in 2008 over that. And then in 2008, also, he lost a bunch of money in the 2008 financial crisis. And in 2009, it was reported that his worth had shrunk from where it was when he sold all his shares to at $100 million down to like $4 million. So he spent a lot of it also, but he experienced like a giant loss of resources. And also in 2008, he was awarded an honorary doctorate of science from his alma mater, Roanoke College. Which is like crazy that all this stuff happened and then he got that. And then like after like the same year that he's embroiled in like a lawsuit over a dead guy, he like gets an honorary doctorate of science because I guess he still kind of is this sort of cybersecurity guru also. And so there's this reputation. He gets interviewed all the time and like talks about it and kind of creates this like Hunter S. Thompson on the edge-esque character all the time. It's just interesting. He ended up moving to Belize in 2009, where he purchased a beachfront compound on Ambergris Key, and another one near Carmelita on the mainland. And he became known locally for keeping a security detail of ex-criminals and thugs, like people who had specifically killed people to go to jail. He like hired them to be his guards. And he had this plan to start this kind of weird company to growing these like sort of specific, sort of like not new age, but like sort of cutting edge science, medicinal plant research based products was where he was at with it, because Belize is kind of jungly. So he had some sort of idea with that. And on the 2009 CNBC special, The Bubble Decade, he revealed that he lost most of his money in that crisis building unsold mansions during the housing crisis, which eventually ballooned into a global recession, right? So like, obviously...
Thank God we only had to live through one of those.
Yeah, obviously he's just... He commits hard. He commits hard to what he's doing, sort of like ideas that are sort of generated from within. He built a bunch of mansions and lost money. That's a huge thing to commit to when you're only worth $100 million. But he did it. And he fucked himself up in the recession. And in early 2010, when he finally started to get this company going for real, he partnered with the biologist Allison and Donizio to start the herbal antibiotic company Quorum X, which specifically targets bacteria's quorum sensing ability, which I think is like how strong it needs to be. Like, I don't know enough about bacteria. I'm not a bacteriologist, but I believe what it does is it sort of like blinds the bacteria from being able to do something that it normally does to like infect you properly, and makes it hard for the bacteria to infect you. So that was the idea with the company. In 2012, the Mensa Bulletin, as in like the geniuses, like Mensa, they published an interview with McAfee where he claimed that he was one of the most popular hacking targets in the world, which kind of makes sense, right?
I can see that, for sure.
He's like the antivirus guy, right? So it's kind of cool to hack Mr. Antivirus. Yeah, like kind of for the bit. Mm-hmm. And it became such an inconvenience for him that he had to have other people buy all his gear for him, and he had to change his IP address multiple times a day so that they couldn't track his machines and stuff like that, which he said was just really annoying, but kind of cool, but kind of lame. But suddenly, on April 30th, 2012, John McAfee was arrested for making drugs without a license and for owning a bunch of weapons in his house without proper registration. His compound in Orange Walktown, Belize, was raided by the Belize PD Gang Suppression Unit, which is the GSU, which is like, in his story, like a scary organization that like consistently terrorizes you and does like sort of like KGB style, like intimidation tactics against you. But the police themselves maintain that this was all just because he was a suspect and not convicted or charged with anything. And actually, he was eventually released without charges being filed, right? And so it's this weird thing because it also kind of feels like he says the police were getting weird about the fact that he was like building a private army, kind of, right? He kind of had all these guys walking around all the time with guns and shit. And they're like, dude, give me those guns. So like maybe they kind of like trumped up the charges a little bit to like get in there and take his guns. It's not, I don't know. That's kind of what he says, but I don't know how often he lies or tells the truth.
That's the thing that I took away the most from the documentary is that I don't know if he lies or tells the truth about, like, everything he says seems so insane it can't possibly be real. But then
again, like some stuff is definitely real. Yeah.
Then you discover, like, wait a minute, that was real. Like, I don't know. The man's an enigma, but I also think because his whole life was like always trying to stay one step ahead, that's how he's like, well, if I lie and I'm gone, like, what are you going to do? Nothing. So like, yeah. And it did end up being weird. It did end up being weird because a few years later, when he's hiding out in Canada, he's being interviewed. He said that during that raid, a bunch of his assets were seized, and then the house mysteriously burned down where they were all seized from to cover evidence or something, I don't know, or just to intimidate him, which is already weird. But then later that year, he also says that from 2010 to 2011, he actually did make like 200 posts on Blue Light. If you know what Blue Light is, Mathas.
What the fuck is Blue Light?
It's like a forum about like, if you're going to use fucked up drugs, like at least be safe.
Oh, that sounds like a great website.
Yeah, it's it's like that type of community. But he made like 200 posts on there under the name Stuffmonger.
Why did you say, I don't know if you know what that is, Mathas?
Because I thought maybe you would. I thought maybe you'd be like, that's where I get all my
drugs.
Just not like, I don't know, any psychedelics or anything too. Like maybe you found a method there. I don't know.
Oh,
but
no.
It's like a drug use forum for proper drug use. Let's just put it that way. He's on there under the name Stuffmonger, which I think Jesse and Mathas both have used at various times for various things. All about how to use and make MDPV, aka like bath salts, aka plant fertilizer, aka ivory wave, aka vanilla sky, aka energy one, aka monkey dust. You know, so maybe everybody's right, you know, because he definitely was posting. He was posting stuff about how to make drugs, and he had all these plants that he was doing. But he had this health plant company, but he was also growing plants, and he had like guns. You know what I'm saying? Like,
dude is fucking entertaining as hell, and he's fucking insane.
Yeah, I mean, like he's scared. Like he is. It's one of those things where when you like read about him, you're like, whoa, this guy would be crazy to hang out with. And then again,
I would have loved like
go watch that documentary. I don't know what you would expect, but it's not
that
fun
poor cameraman, dude.
It's like scary crazy.
Oh, you'd still have a story after though.
I don't know, dude. I think everyone involved with that shoot thought they were going to die all the time.
What's who read the last one?
I think Mathas did.
Okay, well, you read this one, and it's like exactly that. It's a quote from Wired about what it's like to be with John McAfee.
The shades are drawn so I can see only a sliver of the white beach sand and turquoise water outside. The table is piled with boxes of ammunition, fake IDs bearing his photo, frontiersman bear deterrent, and a single blue baby pacifier. McAfee picks a bullet off the floor and fixes me with a wide-eye manic intensity. This is a bullet, right? He says in the congenial southern accent, sorry, this is a bullet, right? He said accent stuck with him since boy in Virginia. Let's put it back in the gun. I tell him, I come here to try and understand why the government of Belize was accusing him of assembling a private army and entering the drug trade. It seemed implausible that a wildly successful tech entrepreneur would disappear into the Central American jungle and become a narco trafficker. Now, I'm not so sure.
I can see somebody with his mentality.
I questioned it.
Right, but like, you know what I mean? Like that paranoid, somebody's coming after me mentality. Maybe just having a compound in a sort of relatively, in his mind, lawless country is like the safe play where you're protected literally by dudes with guns rather than like society.
Also, he did have plants and was on a drug website.
But he also lied a ton. And a lot of it seems like maybe he was just running from the U.S. government who was after him. And so he fled. And like, there's so many layers to this insanity that I cannot stress to you. What you think you know about this man, you don't know. I don't know. I don't know that anyone knows.
And I think it's a weird parallel to draw, and it's not one-to-one, but he reminds me of people like Aleister Crowley, like Madame Blavatsky, which we'll talk about, because it's the same with their history. They lie so much about who they are, where they came from, the secret masters as well. When we one day cover Madame Blavatsky, all that shit is like, it's so much lies, but then all of a sudden you come across something, you're like, well, wait a minute, that was true? And then you're like, you're not sure where the legend and
are these guys fronting, or are they just legit?
Yeah. But that's part of it. It's a myth building exercise. I don't think this guy was doing it on purpose in a way like some magicians do. But it's very similar because it does build this, like, it still persists to this day of like, who was this guy? I
actually do kind of think that's a much better analogy maybe than you think. Like, here's the rest here. For Mathas, why don't you read the other half of this quote right here?
Sorry, scroll for a second. Okay, here. But he explains that the accusations are fabrication. Maybe what happened didn't actually happen, he says, staring hard at me. Can I do a demonstration? He loads a bullet into the gleaming silver revolver and spins the cylinder. This scares you, right? He says. Then he puts the gun to his head. My heart rate kicks up. He takes a second to respond. It takes me a second to respond, rather. Yeah, I'm scared, I admit. We don't have to do this. I know we don't, he says, the muzzle pressed against his temple. And then he pulls the trigger. Nothing happens. He pulls it 3 more times in rapid succession. There are only 5 chambers. Reholster the gun, I demand. He keeps his eyes fixed on me and pulls the trigger a 5th time. Still nothing. With the gun still to his head, he starts pulling the trigger incessantly. I can do this all day long, he says to the sound of the hammer clicking. I can do this 1,000 times, 10,000 times. Nothing will ever happen. Why? Because you have missed something. You are operating on an assumption about reality that is wrong. I mean, it's very, very, very Crowley. It's very Madame Blavatsky. Because, he says he saw him put the bullet in there.
Yeah. So
all
what
logic
happened?
says is, why didn't the bullet, if he pulls it 9,000 times?
His thing is that McAfee knew how to do this manipulation, where he probably pocketed the bullet or did something. And that's why he's saying your assumption about reality is wrong. But the mythos he builds around himself is the idea that, like, he's a crazy man who I thought was going to shoot himself and it didn't happen. And he kept pulling the trigger and it didn't happen. And like, what about him is so special? Like,
but what's crazy, but like, here's interesting is like him living, if say we take that as true, right? Like he maybe is playing up his own insanity. His own playing it up led to a death that was equivalent to it as if he was living that life anyway, right?
I'm not even sure that when they said he died, he died. Like, I don't even know that he was dead. That might just be another thing. Because again, the amount of people trying to, like Alex mentioned, he had people constantly after him on like all of his tech
according
stuff.
to him. Yeah.
Right. But like the idea that hackers are out to get him, the idea that the government's out to get him, the idea that like Central American governments are out to get him, that drug dealers, like the amount of people out to get him faking his death I'd be like, yeah, I believe that.
Perfect. Yeah.
Well, keep watching, folks. That first raid is actually just barely the start of some shit, though, because now comes the first big mystery in the true crime story. On November 12th, 2012, the Belize PD arrives at McAfee's house on Ambergris Key and begins searching the premises, telling him he's a POI in the shooting death of his neighbor, another American, a man called Gregory Viant Fall, who was found murdered in his own home execution style the day before. There was no sign of forced entry. They found a single 9mm shell casing, and his laptop and his iPhone were gone. The story goes that there was some sort of like dispute over the crazy army of like scary dogs, which John kept all around his property, along with the like ex-convict army, which not only scared the shit out of his neighbor Fall and anybody else who visited over at his house, who had to walk past McAfee's house, but they were also like insanely loud and crazy, and like he didn't control them, and they just shit everywhere and all that stuff.
Did a bunch of drugs at the house.
Yeah, exactly. Within the previous month, leading up to his death, Fall and several other co-signing neighbors had filed a official complaint against John McAfee. Here's a quote for that for Jesse to read right here. This is the official text of the complaint.
The residents and visitors of the Monte Grande subdivision and surrounding properties petition local authorities to address 3 issues affecting our safety, health, and tourism, says the complaint. These problems are all at the residence of John McAfee. The petition charges that security guards on McAfee's property walk around with shotguns at night and up and down the beach. They have been known to shine spotlights right into people's eyes at night and act aggressively with their guns, chambering a bullet and nonsense such as this. People are scared to walk down the beach at night. As a result, the tourists are terrified. The complaint also alleges that taxis and delivery trucks arrive at McAfee's house at all hours, and that vicious dogs on his property are running amok. These animals get loose and run as a pack. 3 residents have been bitten and 3 tourists have been attacked. According to the complaint, when one of McAfee's dogs attacked a young female tourist, a neighbor who had witnessed the attack confronted McAfee, who had also witnessed the attack. McAfee did nothing about it, as says the complaint. Neighbors told ABC News that Fall, F-A-U-L-L, who lived 300 yards from McAfee, was the person who confronted McAfee.
So that's what's going on according to the complaint of everybody else who lived there besides the one guy who says something else different was happening. During the night the police arrived, McAfee was acting super weird because, according to him, he thought that his previous altercation with the police, where they were sort of, in his mind, stealing his army, he thought that meant they wanted to kill him, and that this was just a continuing part of this sort of like I told you, this sort of KGB style interrogation that he was saying they were doing. According to McAfee, not only had Fall previously poisoned 4 of his dogs in revenge for this moment, but McAfee then, he said that he had to shoot 4 of the dogs to put them out of their misery, and he was just furious. But he also thought that probably the reason that Fall was dead wasn't because of anything with his dogs, but because he thinks that the police probably shot him instead of him, because he was another American guy, and they just made a mistake. And he was so scared of answering questions that he literally buried himself in the sand for hours with a cardboard box over his head to avoid the police. He was like literally buried his whole body under the sand like fucking a psychopath, and covered his head in a cardboard box like Solid Snake. Anyway, meanwhile, the Prime Minister of Belize, having heard about everything that went on, called his behavior paranoid, called him bonkers. And just before the end of the year in December, John McAfee decides to flee Belize in 2012 while under investigation as an active murder suspect. But never to do anything the easy way, he brings his 20-year-old Belizean girlfriend, Samantha, with him, whose uncle just happens to be the recent ex-attorney general of a very scary, unpopular regime in Belize that they just recently ousted. But also he invites a journalist and cameraman from Vice to come along with him all the way back in 2012, by the way, to shoot everything that happens. So the documentary is made up of the footage that these guys never got to put out 10 years earlier. Yeah.
That's crazy.
And so he's just like, they're like, you want to come with us? And they're like, free giant news story, fuck yes. And so they embed with him basically and shoot everything that happens, and they cross some ethical lines for sure with him in the at that point, because they're kind of trapped with him. And there's a crazy article out there about that you can like listen to for an hour, or you can read it. It's really great on Vice, and I think it'll be in the show notes. And even though they wouldn't publish the footage back then, like I said, Netflix then bought the footage, made a documentary called Running with the Devil from it, and I think that came out in 2021 or 2022.
I think we watched it together.
Yeah, we watched it on, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, but that same month, while they were hiding at a hotel in Guatemala, Vice is like sending like photos with their articles that they took with the cameras, and cameras like put metadata on pictures, right? So like if you're taking a picture somewhere, it tags it geographically where you are. And so they sent those pictures to Vice, and they told them, hey, can you please screenshot the pictures before you post them? But they did not do that. And so it immediately leaked McAfee's location to anyone who was looking for him. And he responded by starting a blog about his adventures. And then he tried to get an asylum in Guatemala City, and he got arrested instead. It was looking real bad for Vice, and it was looking real bad for him and his girlfriend and everybody. And about a day later, reports come out that McAfee suffers 2 heart attacks overnight because he's so stressed from being on the run, from being pursued. He's like anxious. He can't handle it. It's taking his toll. His body is, ravaged by drugs in his youth or whatever. But according to McAfee, who had also taken to wearing various wigs at this time and walking with a cane and like pretending to have palsy, literally pretending to have palsy to get past people. He claimed that he only faked the heart attacks so that he had time for his lawyer to file some appeals that eventually got him deported to the USA, except his girlfriend didn't get to come, so he just left her in Belize, and he just went back to the USA by himself. The very night that he arrived in the United States, he then hooked up with a sex worker, 30 years his younger, called Janice Dyson in South Beach, Florida, and they stayed together going forward from that night. The very first day after he left his girlfriend behind in the other country, they stayed together, and eventually she married him the next year in 2013, claiming that he saved her from like sex traffickers and stuff by moving them out to Portland, Oregon, where they then lived. On the other hand, though, Gregory Falls family members, the guy with the who was with the dog complaint, who were understandably fucking furious about what was going on with John McAfee, filed a wrongful death lawsuit against him in Florida immediately when he got back to the United States. But John McAfee promptly ignored it and requested a dismissal. And this got tied up in court for like a couple years, and that's what happened in 2013. Pretty crazy. During the shooting of Running with the Devil, though, another thing that's crazy that happened around this time and all the interviewing that happened is that the original journalist from Vice was like watching the footage back, and he realized that in a couple of different scenes, and it's like he doesn't put it together. He says it in the movie because he thinks it's worth saying, but he doesn't say it straight up that it's an accusation. But he kind of sees that maybe John also might have staged his dad's death as a suicide and actually shot him himself in a similar way.
Mm-hmm.
And so they don't go too far into it because it's like more of a hunch than anything based on some specific files where he almost walks up to the line of saying that he did that, if you know what I'm saying, in the middle of explaining another story. But if he did kill his dad execution style like that, that's precedence.
It's another whole nother layer as to why he constantly probably refers back to how bad of a person his dad was, maybe in some way trying to justify it to himself.
Yes, exactly.
Like I said, there are layers to this shit where I don't know. There's a lot of talk that he says about things in his life where the more you dig into it, the more you're just like, so did he just lie about a thing because he did something even worse, but he'd rather the lie live because it's not as bad as the real thing that occurred?
It's like better.
Like that's most of this stuff, and it's wild.
Yeah, absolutely fucking insane. In 2013, right after that, John founds the Future Tense Central company, which is an incubator, which also developed a secure network device called the D Central. And then that same year, he also uploads this crazy video to his channel, how to uninstall McAfee antivirus. If you've never seen it, it's insane. It's like him with like coke blown out of his nose and shooting a bunch of guns. And it got like 10 million views. He's like joking about it. He's talking shit on McAfee in it. He parodies the like sort of image of himself that he's created of like a cokehead, like sort of gun nut, paranoid freak. He surrounds himself with hot bitches and he talks shit on the company. It's pretty crazy. Moments after he just got back from being accused of murder, he's like doing these weird, goofy videos. Also, the aerotrekking class victim, Robert Gilson, his family files a wrongful death lawsuit against McAfee as well, where he's ordered to pay $2.5 million in 2014 for back damages because he lost it by default because he just ignored all the summons. And he refused to pay the $2.5 million as well. And so that just disappeared. But also, much to his satisfaction, briefly, when McAfee was finally purchased by Intel in 2010, the company McAfee, they slowly started to shift away from using the name McAfee. And he thought that was awesome because by 2014, McAfee became Intel Security. And he said, quote, "I am now everlastingly grateful to Intel for freeing me from this terrible association with the worst software on the planet." And so he was like talking shit. And then he launched the smartphone app Cognizant in 2014, which shows the permissions of other apps on your phone, which is kind of a neat thing. Eventually, it was named D-Central One, just like that other product that he made. His secure network advice kept the same name. And then in August of 2014, he speaks at DEF CON, which is like the hacker convention in Vegas, and he warns people
by the way,
possible.
For those of you,
I love that.
I must stress, if you've ever been to EVO, it happens roughly the same time. So you will be going to like the fighting game and you have to walk past that hacker con, and it is wild.
What does a HackerCon look like?
Oh, dude,
They give like talks. It's like a serious thing.
and what's crazy is at
Like the
Evo
movie.
they have to say to you, "Hey, by the way, there's a hacker convention, so
be
be
careful.
which is wild.
That's
They're
awesome.
like, do
That's
not try to
crazy,
get on
but
the
that's
internet
awesome.
in your hotel. Do not. I was like, oh, okay. It's wild.
That's nuts.
Yeah. So in August 2014, when we may have been there, he spoke at the DEF CON hacker convention and he warned people of the possible security risks they might not realize are inherent in smartphone use, ultimately advocating against the widespread use of smartphones in general. Also in August 2015, just a little bit after that, he was arrested for a DUI for having a firearm while intoxicated on Xanax. And I got a little quote for whoever who needs to read right now. Is it Jesse's
It's
turn?
me.
Mathas' turn? Okay. This is a quote for him.
I was impaired, I must admit, McAfee told CNBC. Here's the story according to him. I had just that morning received a prescription for Xanax from a doctor. I'd never taken them before. McAfee said he was driving when his phone fell between his seat and the console of the car, and as he was digging to retrieve it, his driving became erratic. A highway patrol officer pulled him over. The arresting officer decided that I needed a blood test, which I agreed to. McAfee also admits he had a weapon in the car. I always carry a weapon, and if you are not impaired in the state of Tennessee, it is not illegal to have weapons in the car. So we'll just have to wait and see what the judge says about that. One report claims alcohol was involved, but McAfee said that is not the case, and he is confident the blood test results will prove that. Earlier reports claimed McAfee said there was a shootout with police, but he told CNBC that was his joking reply to questions from a British newspaper. what a way to just complete lie. He said that when the reporter for a tabloid asked about the shootout, he foolishly replied, "As soon as I heard gunfire, I assumed my ex-wife had caught up with me and naturally returned fire." In truth, there was no shootout. McAfee also joked to this reporter that he was innocent of all charges and a time-stamped sex tape of him and his wife would exonerate him.
So he was all over the place.
Yeah, a little bit.
And like, I don't know.
everywhere.
I just don't know how sober this dude was, really. You know what I mean? Like, he says he was sober since the 80s. I don't know. I'm not buying it. He definitely was on Xanax here, but he says it was a prescription. But I think he was abusing. I think he was abusing drugs a little bit. But that didn't stop him from announcing a presidential run on September 15th, 2015, as the very first candidate of the newly formed Cyber Party. He adjusted this to the Libertarian Party by Christmas Eve because that was very dumb.
Cyber Party in the late 90s.
Yeah. I was like, what are you wearing? ASL.
Yeah, ASL.
And he participated in the march.
It's not an O, it's a 0.
Yes,
Cyborg.
It's Cyborg. He participated in the March 2016 Libertarian debate, which was like the first like televised one. And he came in second in the primaries and third at the Libertarian National Convention. He was taken quite seriously because he's very rich. The funny thing is, though, his political views don't seem that crazy 10 years on from 2016. Big ones for him were like free market with free trade, stopping the redistribution of wealth, having a foreign policy based on staying out of other people's business, decriminalizing drugs, abolishing the TSA, religious freedom for all, and then obviously like web security was a big one for him, hilariously. But
yeah, of course.
like that doesn't sound that evil compared to what's going on nowadays. And in the Washington Times in 2016, he was quoted as saying, quote, "No one is forcing you to buy anything or to choose one person over another. So why should I be forced to do anything if I am not harming you? It's my choice to sell, your choice to buy." That's
All right.
his.
Yeah,
that's his
sure.
very libertarian ass sort of mentality. He started the security company Everkey in January of 2016, and in February, as a publicity stunt, he offered to decrypt the iPhone. I don't know if you remember, there was a terror attack in San Bernardino, California, at the Inland Regional Center. There was like a terrorist attack where there were these two guys, and there was a cell phone that was locked that the FBI was having trouble.
Oh, that's
And he
right.
offered to-
Yes.
He offered to hack that phone. In May of that year, he was also named the CEO and chairman at MGT Capital. Even after, we're like years after his murder charges, unresolved murder charges, by the way. And he was named CEO and chairman at MGT Capital Investments, which is a social gaming and tech holding company, where he basically pivoted the entire company into yet another cybersecurity company. He made the Sentinel intruder detection hardware for systems and E-tagged which tracks the physical movement of smartphones and other similar devices for the purposes of surveillance. Like you can like track like where a person's body is in a building based on their phone or something like that.
The technology Batman used in The Dark Knight.
Yeah, basically. As a publicity stunt for MGT, John claimed to have found an exploit in Android that let him read other people's WhatsApp posts. I don't know if you remember this. He made like a big viral splash about saying he just could read other people's WhatsApps. But actually, he supplied journalists with pre-hacked phones to make it work. So he didn't even do anything interesting.
So just lying.
He just like fucked them over. Yeah. Also in 2016, the New York Stock Exchange refused to list shares, which MGT needed to buy certain technologies. And eventually a bunch of extra stuff the company was working on suddenly became vaporware for this reason. And the whole thing got recentered fully around the Sentinel sort of security hardware. And weirdly, as an extent of that, somehow Bitcoin mining, which somehow McAfee,
that doesn't sound too out of that character.
Well, he was convincing people that he needed to do Bitcoin mining for cybersecurity purposes so that he could like be sharp in the space. Does that make sense? Like when I buy a video game because I'm a video game YouTuber, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
In his mind, right? Yeah, something like that. In 2016, there's another documentary called Gringo that came out that's earlier than the Netflix one that's on Showtime. It's called Gringo, The Dangerous Life of John McAfee. And it carried with it some crazy accusations which add on to the things that have already happened and make things seem even darker in Belize than we thought. Firstly, according to the herbal biologist Alison Adonisio, even though their business started off well, John slowly lost his grip in Belize, and she said they eventually parted ways when he fucking drugged her and then raped her, which honestly is like a crazy hard scene to watch in that movie. And, you know, just in case you're wondering if all the bad stuff he was doing was just in his head or not, let me tell you, it was not all in his head. However, I will, out of fairness, say that he says this did not occur, just so you know.
Of course. But again, he's already proven in the course of this episode.
Right.
He's an unreliable narrator.
Right, exactly. And in addition to that, it also brought in some interviewees that claim that McAfee actually may have paid a hitman to kill Gregory Fall in response to their fight over his dogs. And that furthermore, there was even another guy, David Middleton, who McAfee like paranoidly became convinced had stolen shit out of his house, who he then had abducted and like beaten. And then that guy died from getting beaten by some dudes. And the crazy thing is that about all that, and the confusing thing is, though, really, you have to kind of go watch the movie yourself to believe it. But like later, and there's like a 2020 that you got to catch too to really see how weird it is. The same people who said all the stuff about John paying people to kill people then turned around and recanted it and claimed that the director had paid them to say what the director wanted them to say, and even requested a cease and desist against the director. And then John like made a big blog post about it on his blog and was like, yeah, see, I told you, you can do whatever you want in Belize if you have the right money. They came in with their story. It was a hit piece on me, yada, yada, yada. But then the director of the documentary is now accused. So she goes back to Belize and she's like, what the fuck? And they're like, sorry about that. John paid us to say that. We know it's not true, but we needed the money because we are poor and we live in Belize. And she was like, fuck. Right. So now it's like impossible to say what the real version of events is and who did what, because you've got the same people in two documentaries that have not been taken down, one on John's channel and one official one on Showtime, where they're saying the same exact people are saying the exact opposite thing. And he also denies raping that biologist in the same email. Here's a quote from him to read that is for Jesse.
Please, Showtime, show some grace and simply pay me without the formality of having to deal with lawyers. I will accept $500 million. Thank you.
Yeah, in 2017, Intel Security was converted into a joint venture between Intel and TPG Capital, and to his dismay, was rebranded again as McAfee when they like spun it out. They just like renamed it McAfee again. So he was like, fuck.
I'll say I know they exist because my brother was recently contracted to work for them like a couple months ago.
Yeah, they're back. Is that a conflict of interest? Are we in trouble now?
I mean, they haven't slipped me any money, but if they want to, they can.
We'll delete this episode, McAfee, if you give us
trouble.
No, I'll disclaim it.
Yeah. Starting in March of 2017, buzz around a McAfee biopic starts. Johnny Depp, Seth Rogen, Michael Keaton, Zac Efron attached. Ultimately, it ended up going nowhere, though. But it was like a weird time. This guy, again, murderer, probably in the media, like very clearly seems to be a murderer. But in May, he was interviewed about the murder again on 2020, and he maintained his innocence. And this is where we get some of that follow up on the Showtime story I was talking about. And it's another great interview. Like if you're going to watch one, the 2020 one is good. It's on YouTube. You can check it out. I'll try and link it in the show notes. In July 2017, John said he would eat his own dick on national TV if Bitcoin didn't jump to 500K in 3 years and then 1 million by the end of 2020. But that did not happen. But he did not eat his dick. Yeah,
I would have loved to watch that.
No.
I would. I would just. It'd be fine just to know. I don't need to check it. I don't need to like. It's not like a doubting Thomas scenario for me. I'd trust it.
You would trust. That's the problem. You can't trust that thing this guy says.
That's
you
all right.
have to watch it.
It doesn't matter to me that much whether or not he eats his own dick. In 2017, August, he steps down as a CEO of MGT, this company that he's been with. He briefly continues working there under the title of Chief Cybersecurity Visionary, but then he leaves to work in crypto in 2018. So now you know what kind of guy he is in 2018.
You're not just a cybersecurity expert. You're a visionary.
He's a crypto cybersecurity expert. In June 2018, he tweets he's running for president again in the next election, probably as a libertarian again, which is exactly what he ended up doing, mostly running on a cryptocurrency-based policy this time, which kind of was weird. In August 2018, he became the CEO of a cryptocurrency company called LuxCore, which is a horrible name. And then that same November, after refusing to dismiss the wrongful death lawsuit brought by the family of the victim, Gregory Fall, McAfee failed to appear in court, lost the case, and was ordered by the courts to pay $25 million to the man's family, which he then did not do. In January 2019, John said that taxes were illegal and that he hadn't filed a tax return since 2010. He said he'd have to continue his presidential campaign in exile because he and his staff were all indicted for tax felonies, even though the IRS never confirmed this. He said he was going to Venezuela, and he got in trouble with the libertarians for saying nice things about Che Guevara. And then in July of 2019, he was arrested on his yacht in Puerto Rico for possession of high-caliber weapons and ammo. All his weapons were seized, and he was held for 4 days. Then in November of 2019, John McAfee tweeted an important tweet, along with a photo of a tattoo. Here's the tweet, and you can describe the tattoo to everybody, too.
Okay, so the tweet says, getting subtle messages from U.S. officials saying, in effect, we're coming for you, McAfee. We're going to kill yourself. Yeah, that's what it says. I got a tattoo today just in case. If I suicide myself, I didn't. I was whacked. Check my right arm. And what does that tattoo say, Jesse?
Well, it's $WHACKD. Swacked, if you will.
Yeah.
So,
available only on McAfeeX.com,
which is like a meme coin. It's whacked. Which is hilarious. But in January 2020, he admitted he lied about his Bitcoin value dick eating prediction. He wasn't being serious because he was trying to get more people to use Bitcoin, claiming that it was a limited ancient technology. So that's why he didn't eat his dick. And then by March of 2020, just as COVID is kicking off, McAfee suspends his campaign for president, endorses that guy Vermin Supreme, who, if you don't know who Vermin Supreme is, he looks like this.
Yourself.
He looks like this.
You need to. You need to go learn who Vermin Supreme is.
He has a boot on his head a lot of the time. Yeah. So he endorsed Vermin Supreme instead. And then he announced that he was still running for vice president before taking that back the very next day. Just kind of being like, actually, probably nobody's going to vote for me, right? I'm like on the run at this point. You know, nobody wants to do this.
Yeah.
And by the end of the cycle, even though he endorsed and ran with Adam Kokesh a bit, who's more like the more straight-laced, sensible, society-compatible type of libertarian, if you know what I mean. Even though he's still even though he's still like anti-government, and he was literally running a campaign to like dissolve the federal government. But then John failed to qualify for a nomination at the 2020 Libertarian National Convention in May. So that was the end of his vice presidential dreams. In August, he said he'd been arrested in Norway for wearing a thong over his face instead of an N95 and refusing to change it because he's a hero to anti-maskers, I guess.
Yeah.
And he even posted a picture of himself being escorted away with a black eye. But then people noticed that the cop in the picture actually had a German like phrase on the uniform. And it turned out that he wasn't even in Norway and that he was just trying to get into Germany and couldn't and wasn't even arrested. But he just posted a picture of it and lied anyway. And then in October of 2020, John McAfee was arrested in Spain for tax evasion by request of the U.S. Justice Department. who alleged that he had failed to file any income tax returns for millions and millions of dollars made between 2014 and 2018. And later that month, the SEC also filed a complaint against McAfee, and for some reason his bodyguard also, for engaging in like pump and dump crypto, where McAfee was saying he was just an investor and pretending to say his own opinion about cryptocurrencies when really he got paid like $23 million in assets for doing so. And in March of 2021, he was formally indicted and held in Spain. On June 23rd, 2021, he was found dead by hanging in his cell in a manner most obviously resembling a suicide. And according to forensics, a few hours after his extradition back to Tennessee had been authorized by the Spanish courts, he probably hanged himself, likely to avoid the consequences of a long string of unresolved problems and criminal charges. An official autopsy confirmed the cause of death as suicide. He was officially ruled dead by suicide in the Spanish courts. And as you might expect, some people's only reasonable response to that is to say, no, it's conspiracy. People always sort of point to that whacked tweet as the start of all that, obviously. Yeah. But also, obviously, in the wake of Epstein, and after his lawyers swore that he didn't seem suicidal, and after his wife, Janice, the ex-sex worker from South Beach, who's still married to him all these years later, claimed that the investigation into his death wasn't thorough enough. Naturally, the whole thing is a big question now, and all the crazy ideas he's had over the years about who's following him and why become more and more tempting to sort of like entertain as if they were real as time goes on if you are investigating John McAfee. But still, if you look into them, nothing ever comes up. He wasn't being chased like that. A bunch of people hated him and wanted to bring him to justice for crimes he definitely committed, but he probably was not on the run from like contract killers really at any given point. Probably.
And that's the best we'll ever be able to say is probably.
Yes. But then again, that's a lot of crypto money and stuff tied up in all this, right?
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think is the level of realness, genuine?
Well, do you know, I mean, like, are you aware of, I mean, hold on, I'll just go look it up. So there's a post on, so like John McAfee, his Twitter still active to this day.
Yes.
And
yes.
I think it's supposed to be run by his wife, I think.
Yes.
But
yes.
With that said, June 23rd, 2025, literally his wife is saying that, he was found dead by suicide, and they reported it to the world before she was notified or his attorneys were notified. And then she goes on to say that, like, weird that the prison, we learned he was alive when they found his body, but they didn't give him CPR. What's that about? And then they talk about like CIA agents. Literally, she is keeping it going.
It's crazy because it actually all the Twitter came back in 2025 originally to launch a new meme coin called AI antivirus, but it says AI instead of A. It's like AI antivirus. And everybody thought it was a hack at first, but then she comes out and she said that she made the meme coin to honor John's legacy and his memory. But then it at one point had a market capitalization of $37 million. So like, Jesus. I'm sure there was a little bit more going on than just honoring his memory. I don't know. Super crazy. But now that he's dead and his story is weird and sad and frustrating, but oddly compelling. And rather than know any sort of truth about what was going on at the core of this man, at least we can all kind of know what we think of him now by the end of this, right? His body was finally released from the fridge at the Justice of Barcelona to be buried in America over 2 years later in December of 2023. He just spent 2 years chilling. He left nothing to anybody, no will, no estate, probably a little bit what had to do with that meme coin being launched. And regardless of whether it's a net positive or a negative, he's undoubtedly left an impression on people. There's all sorts of art and songs and raps and memes about him, especially in the crypto world, which is so terminally online that it's excruciating, like cringe level 6 million over there in the crypto world. If you ever want to watch that one cocaine video he made, how to uninstall Norton antivirus, you'll see what I mean. It's like just so like my dad gave me the money to afford an editor. But yeah, he's kind of a hero for the Elon Musk is a genius in 2026 types, I think, still today.
For sure.
And his reputation as a like rich, weird guy who goes off the grid with guns and drugs is like kind of an archetype almost at this point. He's like made a new type of guy. You know what I mean? Like that's a new type. As there's like more and more insane rich people in the world, he's kind of like one type. Also, not as important, but I saw on Wikipedia that in July of 2022, it was revealed that Mr. Boss from Smiling Friends was lightly based on John McAfee, which I don't know if you've seen that show too much, but that makes fucking sense now that you think about it. That is the story of John McAfee. What a fucking crazy weird guy that fucking guy is.
Yeah, one of my favorite, more modern, insane people whose history you can't even fully understand. Highly suggest you go watch those documentaries.
I think you should watch the first documentary, then you should watch the 2020, and then you should watch the second documentary. Both of them aren't very long. You'll be done in like a couple hours. Do it in 2 nights. It's a crazy situation over there. It's a crazy situation. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That's it. We'll be back next week with a brand new episode. We appreciate you. We're off to go do a mini-sode over at patreon.com/Chilluminati pod. As always, we appreciate you. We love you. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.
Anyway, me and my wife were sitting outside indulging on our porch one night, enjoying ourselves. I needed to go to the bathroom, so I stepped back inside, and after a few moments, I hear my wife go, "Holy shit, get out here." So I quickly dash back outside, and she's looking up at the sky in awe. I look up too, and there's a perfect line of dozen lights traveling across the sky.